And now...
What is this?
I know you're gonna dig this.
This is the Flatland Sports Podcast.
Where do you come from? Lubbock, Texas?
Lubbock, Texas.
A place called Lubbock.
I wonder if they think I'm so gorgeous back in Lubbock.
What do you care about Lubbock? You're big time now.
I'm just a little homesick, that's all.
Is that what you want, Larry, to spend the night in Lubbock, Texas at a day's end with a $15 voucher from Cinnabon?
Lubbock? No, it's near Lubbock.
What's it like there?
It's flat, real flat. You stand on a coffee can, you can see Colorado.
How are you doing from across the Great Plains of West Texas? This is the Flatland Sports Podcast, free and available worldwide, exclusively on YouTube, wherever you are, however you are. I hope you are happy. I hope you're doing well. If you're here right now, thank you so much. Please take the time to like and subscribe. It is free for you, and it helps me tremendously. Cody Campbell and Brett Yormark are feuding. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about baseball, softball. We'll also have the good, the bad, and the ugly. But first, this episode of the Flatland Sports Podcast is powered by Midwest Helmets, where owner Dallas Thompson is out turning football art into a full-on fan experience. If you've ever wanted a custom helmet of any team, any design, or a wild concept straight from your imagination, Dallas can make it happen. Want a classic double T like the one behind me? He'll do it. A Leech era bass boat glitter helmet? He'll do it. You need something for your fantasy football squad? He'll build that too. If you're a UNT fan and you're pining for the days of the old swastika helmet, he'll make that one too. Whatever you're dreaming up, Dallas will bring it to life with incredible attention to detail. These are one-of-a-kind helmets that will level up your office, man cave, studio, anywhere you rep your team. To order, just send Midwest Helmets a DM on their Facebook page or Instagram. The link will be in the description. And if you mention Flatland Sports in your message, you will score 10% off your custom football helmet. Midwest Helmets, custom, bold, and built to stand out. Welcome back. Recent events have exposed a growing rift right in the heart of the Big 12. Texas Tech Board of Regents chairman and powerhouse booster Cody Campbell is now publicly clashing with Commissioner Brett Yormark over something as basic as when Texas Tech plays football. Started with a leak that the conference wants to move the 2026 Texas Tech versus Houston game, a solid home matchup in Lubbock, to Friday night, October 18th on Fox. Campbell went straight to X and laid it out plainly. Friday nights are sacred in the great state of Texas. It is absolutely absurd that the Big 12 and Fox would consider scheduling Texas Tech and Houston on a Friday night. I know that Brett Yormark is not a native Texan, but he's been here long enough to know better. Come on, man. Yormark didn't like that. He shot back to the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, quote, Cody Campbell does not run the Big 12. He defended the idea by pointing out that the board and ADs already approved up to 12 non-Saturday games a year to chase better viewership and narratives. He even noted that Friday night Big 12 games last season beat your conference average rating by 64%. All schools get treated the same, he said. Ratings come first. Campbell pushed back again. He told ESPN the commissioner's job isn't to act like the dictator of the conference, but to advocate for the member schools, reminding everyone that Yormark works for the presidents who work for the boards. He added that Yormark could have fought for Texas Tech on this, but chose ratings instead. And in a follow-up post, Campbell quipped, apparently Brett didn't get the memo. Everything runs through Lubbock. Maybe we should bring the tortillas back. This back and forth to me is telling. It's something I've been talking about for a while now. Now, in my opinion here, Campbell needs, or maybe needs isn't the right word, but benefits from publicly speaking out against Friday night games like this one to show support mainly for the Texas high school coaches. Those relationships Joey McGuire have built are critical to recruiting pipelines across the state. Even if the date ultimately can't be changed, voicing that concern sends the right message that Texas Tech stands with the high school game in Texas. And these coaches have already been vocal about their dislike for college football games being played on a Friday night. Yormark, on the other hand, in my opinion, did not need to respond publicly at all. The fact that he did is deeply concerning. This is something that he could have handled privately. I'm sure he has Cody Campbell's phone number. It turns a legitimate stakeholder concern into a public power struggle now instead of handling it internally like a commissioner who truly advocates for his member schools. And this wasn't a one-off spat. Cody Campbell and Brett Yormark have been at odds for some time. At least it may seem that way. Go back to the tortilla toss, a proud Texas Tech tradition going back to the 80s, where, in case you've lived under a rock, where fans flung tortillas onto the field after touchdowns and an opening kickoff. The Big 12 80s voted 15-1, only Texas Tech's Kirby Hocutt voted no, for a new policy with warnings and a 15-yard penalty for objects on the field. Now, mid-season, after penalties and a $100,000 fine threat in the Kansas game, the school caved, installed cameras, and started ejecting fans and effectively killed the tradition. And even when Kansas later admitted that a staffer dropped the knife that triggered the extra fines on Texas Tech, the league didn't back off. Traditions that built culture and identity got steamrolled for the sake of tidy rules and control and appeasing the other 15 universities in the conference. Campbell has called this out before. He produced a commercial that went after conference commissioners directly. Quote, to conference commissioners, it's all about money and control. Their greed is bankrupting all but the biggest schools, and women's sports and Olympic programs everywhere are paying the price. Now, that was a commercial for his Save College Sports Now campaign. Networks like Fox and ABC refused to air it at first. He initially pushed back on the SCORE Act that Yormark supported, arguing that it needed real protections for smaller schools, women's sports, and athletes. After amendments, though, he stood with Yormark at the White House roundtable and endorsed the updated version. And here's a broader picture that matters. When Texas Tech and Oklahoma bolted, the Big 12 lost its flagship identity and a ton of respect. The conference desperately needs a program and needed a program to step up and fill that void. Texas Tech was right there to do it. Texas Tech delivered the ratings above conference average. Texas Tech has poured serious resources into facilities and athletics. Texas Tech is landing 5-star recruits and going toe-to-toe with the Blue Bloods like Ohio State and Texas on the recruiting trail. This program has the investment, the momentum, and the potential to be that team for the Big 12. Yet, time after time, the league seems to push Texas Tech down instead of lifting it up, targeting a beloved tradition, handing out penalties that sting even when the facts didn't hold up, and now floating a high-profile home game on a Friday night, a slot that directly steps on the Texas high school football culture and the recruiting relationships Joey McGuire has worked hard to build with local coaches. Now, Texas Tech isn't asking for special treatment like the old Texas OU days under Bob Bowlesby. The conference voted on some Friday night games together. The league has every right to chase national exposure. But this isn't necessarily just about the date on the calendar either. Scheduling a marquee matchup like Texas Tech versus Houston on Friday, instead of letting it compete on a Saturday where it could shine on Big Noon, reveals a deeper assumption. It's that the Big 12 can't draw on its own merits without gimmicks. It tells high school coaches that TV ratings trump the pipelines that actually build the programs in Texas. Friday nights make sense for certain buried games, like a couple years ago, Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter taking on the Baylor Bears was a perfect Friday night matchup. And I would tell you that on the Texas Tech schedule, Arizona State coming to Lubbock would be, if Texas Tech must do a Friday night home game, Arizona State coming to Lubbock is a perfect one too. But a game with real stakes between the two established Big 12 schools in Lubbock belongs on Saturday. This pattern suggests Yormark doesn't fully believe that the conference can stand tall on the football field without constant schedule tricks and national optics. And credit where credit is due, Brett Yormark walked into a disaster after Texas and OU left and did impressive work. He got a better media deal than expected. He added Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State out of the Pac-12. He has the league positioned to grab even more teams if the ACC crumbles. And separating basketball rights is, in my opinion, a brilliant and frankly long overdue idea. But the truth is staring us in the face. Programs like Texas Tech have given the Big 12 real football momentum and upside that the old projections just never saw coming. The question is whether or not the commissioner can actually embrace that reality, or whether the conference will keep treating its rising flagship like just another piece of the rating puzzle. Now, my take, I tweeted out, do we have the conversation that the Big 12 is no longer aligned with Texas Tech culturally? I don't think Texas Tech has outgrown the Big 12 yet, but I think that alignment is fraying a little bit. I think when the league prioritizes national TV experiments over just not just regional culture, but the conference culture in general, and when it polices traditions instead of protecting them. And when it responds to legitimate concerns from a major stakeholder with, you can't run this place verbally, publicly, where everybody can hear you, it stops feeling like a partnership and starts feeling like control from the top. And what I mean by all that is I'm not saying Cody Campbell didn't have the right to fire, Brett Yormark didn't have the right to fire back. Because at the end of the day, yes, the presidents voted for these Friday night games. What I'm saying is, had Brett Yormark just addressed this privately, Cody Campbell would have just sounded like a bolsterous university booster who was complaining. And now you've got a whole back and forth, and now you've got people picking sides and having opinions. This wouldn't have even made the news. The Big 12 should be elevating the programs that are actually delivering, the ones that are investing, recruiting at a high level, and producing above average ratings. And that's how you build lasting respect and fill the hole left by Texas and Oklahoma. If Yormark can get behind the conference's genuine on-field potential instead of managing decline with Friday night experiments, the Big 12 has a real future. The priority stays ratings first and culture second. Red Raider Nation has every reason to wonder whether this league is still serving in Texas Tech's best interests. This isn't about one booster versus one commissioner. It's about whether or not the conference still sees its members as partners or as just content for the next broadcast window. It's about whether or not Brett Yormark can see and embrace that the Big 12 can actually compete with the SEC and Big 10 on the field and for ratings. When we return, we'll talk about the executive order that President Trump has put out. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast presented by Midwest Helmets. Welcome back. Recent events have moved fast on the college sports front. Just a few weeks after the White House roundtable on March 6th, where Cody Campbell sat at the table with Nick Saban, Tim Tebow, and conference commissioners and others, President Donald Trump took direct action. On April 3rd, 2026, President Donald Trump signed an executive order titled Urgent National Action to Save College Sports. The White House fact sheet lays it out clearly. College athletics is a uniquely American institution. It produces leaders, Olympians, community pride. It provides nearly $4 billion in scholarships every year, to over 500,000 student athletes. But endless lawsuits have weakened the rules, created a financial arms race, and threaten to drain resources away from women's sports and Olympic sports, leaving programs unsustainable. Trump's order directs federal agencies to step in and evaluate whether universities violating core rules on transfers, eligibility, and pay for play, and should remain eligible for federal grants and contracts. It calls on the governing bodies, essentially the NCAA and the conference, to update their rules and to restore order, fairness, and stability. Here's the breakdown of what the executive order actually does. On eligibility, it pushes a clear 5-for-5 model, and that was a model that Texas Tech officials were definitely in favor for. It pushes a clear 5-for-5 model, 5 years to play 5 seasons, period. No eligibility jumping through hoops. It's you're there for 5 years. If you're injured for 5 years, I'm sorry about you. If you play for all 5 years, good for you, kind of a deal. With limited exceptions for military service, missionary work, and other public interest absences. No more endless extra years of eligibility through loopholes. On transfers, 1 transfer during the 5-year period with immediate eligibility, 1 additional transfer if the athlete has already earned a 4-year degree. A second transfer after that would trigger an automatic redshirt season. So basically, you return to the old transfer rules before Baker Mayfield ruined everything for everyone. It brings back structure and academic continuity instead of constant roster chaos. On NIL and pay for play, it targets improper financial arrangements, especially collectives facilitating straight pay for play deals above fair market value for name, image, and likeness. It calls for protections against unscrupulous agents and pushes revenue sharing models that protect and expand opportunities in women's and Olympic sports. The order also directs increased data collection on athletic spending and rosters, empowers the FTC and Attorney General for enforcement, and strongly urges Congress to pass the supporting legislation that we've been talking about, the SCORE Act. In short, it tries to put guardrails back on the portal free-for-all, limit the financial Wild West, and protect the non-revenue sports that are getting squeezed. Now, my take, obviously, this is not a cure-all. College sports is not safe today. I wish I could say it was. It's not. This doesn't magically fix everything overnight, but it does address some of the largest, most destructive issues. The endless eligibility extensions, the transfer portal free-for-all that turn rosters into revolving doors. Texas Tech is not, in basketball, for example, Texas Tech has 2 players on last year's team that have not entered the portal. And quite frankly, there may not be a single player, a single starter on the roster last year who's going to start this coming year. I like the core ideas presented. I like the straight 5-year eligibility window. Joey McGuire has talked about that before. And a limited 1 transfer rule with real consequences for shopping around. These bring back some real sanity to remind everyone that college sports should still be tied to education and continuity. As we sit here today, though, this executive order is not really enforceable in any ironclad way. It leans heavily on universities voluntarily complying, on the threat of losing federal funding as leverage, which don't discount that. Don't discount the power that will have. Many universities do seem to be responding positively so far, recognizing that chaos has gone too far. But the biggest problem, of course, is going to be the courts. President Trump addressed this head on during the roundtable. He expects, in his words, to be sued immediately. And the plan really is just to get this case in front of a friendly judge, someone who's sympathetic to college athletics and sympathetic to him even. And that's realistic. Executive actions in this space have faced legal pushback before. But if you can get it through the court system and get a judge to rule favorably on it, then it becomes a lot more solid. But more importantly, this order doesn't touch the structural elephant in the room, the massive revenue disparity and realignment power held by the Big Ten and SEC. It doesn't rebalance the playing field between the haves and everyone else, and that's really where the SCORE Act comes in. The legislation Cody Campbell has helped shape and now supports, amending the Sports Broadcast Act to consolidate the FBS media rights negotiation, could immediately address the TV revenue issues driving realignment and the growing gap. The people are still chanting, keep politics out of sports. And let's be honest, college sports, as I've been saying, is largely funded by taxpayer dollars. Public universities, state appropriations, federal grants, Title IX. Politics is already deeply involved, whether we like it or not. I'm not saying I'm a fan of politics being involved in sports. I would be the first to tell you if college football, if college athletics was 100% privately funded from the get-go, was a completely private for-profit institution, aka a capitalist institution from the get-go, we would have no problems in college athletics other than just normal sports drama. But it's just not that way. And therefore, politics are sometimes necessary to protect and restore things that we actually love about college sports. Rivalries, traditions, opportunity for more than just the superpowers, and the idea that these are still student athletes, not many NFL free agents. This executive order is a strong first step from the highest level. It shows real urgency, but it won't solve every problem. But it does draw a line in the sand against total chaos and buys time for Congress to act on bigger structural fixes like the SCORE Act. Now, Tech fans, watch closely on how Texas Tech and the Big 12 respond and keep pushing for full reforms that give every program a fighting chance. Now, I do want to update the story. Cody Campbell posted a detailed clarification on X 3 days ago. He reiterated that Friday nights are sacred in Texas, and high school football is an integral part of our proud culture. When we come back, we'll talk Texas Tech baseball. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast presented by Midwest Helmets. Welcome back. Texas Tech split the weekend series at home against Houston 1-2, moving 18-14 overall and 5-8 in Big 12 play. Red Raiders showed big offensive potential with multiple rallies and a season-high hit total, but dropped the first 2 games in extra inning and late fashion before bouncing back strongly on Saturday behind Jackson Burns' gem and a 7-run 7th inning. Game 1 was a loss 6-8. Tech mounted late rallies but couldn't overcome the early Houston lead. Offensively, Tech put 6 runs on 11 hits. Tracer Lopez was 1 for 4, had a 2-run double and his 200th career hit and 2 RBIs. Matt Quitnar had a 2-run double, 2 RBIs. Robin Villeneuve was 1 for 4, an RBI double and 1 extra RBI. Kyler Thompson was 2 for 4, an RBI single, 1 run, 1 stolen base. And Jesse Rosnek was 2 for 4 with 1 run. Lincoln Garcia and Caden Ferreira also had 1 hit and 1 run apiece. On the mound, Lucas Perko was credited with the loss. He's now 3 for 3. Struggled early. He put up 6 runs, or allowed 6 runs in the 3rd and 5th. Kason Ranieri came in, worked out of the jam, and Logan Anderson pitched 1 scoreless inning in the 8th. Houston hit multiple home runs. Tech cut it to 8-6 in the 7th, but left the tying run on base. We'll move on to Game 2, a loss 10-13 in 11 innings. It was a high-scoring marathon that ended in extra innings after Tech led late. Offensively, 10 runs on a season-high 22 hits. Caden Ferreira was 4 for 4, plus 1 walk, 2 runs, and an RBI. He reached base on all 5 plate appearances. Logan Hughes was 4 for 5. He had 2 RBIs, 1 run. Matt Quitnar had 4 hits on 2 runs. Robin Villeneuve was 2 for 7. 3 RBIs. Jesse Rusnick was 3 for 6, 2 runs, 1 RBI, and 2 stolen bases. Kyler Thompson, 2 for 5, plus a walk, had 3 runs, 1 stolen base. On the mound, we had multiple arms used. Bryce Suter pitched 2.1 scoreless innings with 4 strikeouts. Johnny Lowe pitched 2 scoreless innings with 2 strikeouts. Jordan Espinoza, credited with the loss, and he's now 1 for 1, pitched 1 inning in the 11th, 3 hits, allowed 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks. Tech led 10-7 entering the 9th. Houston tied it and won with a 2-run double in the 11th. Game 3 was a win. Red Raiders won 11-2. Jackson Burns delivered a gem, and Tech erupted for a late surge to secure the series split. Offensively, you had 11 runs on 9 hits plus 13 walks. Connor Schaus had 3 RBIs, including a 2-run single in the 7th. Lincoln Garcia had 2 doubles, 2 RBIs. Coleman Ryan was 2 for 3, 2 RBIs and 2 runs. Logan Hughes had a double and an RBI. Caden Ferreira, 2 RBIs via walks and 1 run. Kyler Thompson, 1 RBI, 1 run. Matt Quitnar had 3 runs scored. As mentioned, you had a huge 7th inning, 7 runs highlighted by 2 out walks and back-to-back doubles. Jackson Burns was credited with the win. He had 6 innings pitched, allowed 4 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Only allowed a 2-run home run early. Logan Bevis, 2 innings pitched, allowed no hits, no runs, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. Had a 1-2-3 8th inning. The game ended early due to the time limit rule and was 1 out from a potential 1-run rule. Player of the weekend was Caden Ferreira. He was explosive in Game 2, 4 for 4, plus walks, reached base every time. He was a consistent contributor across the series with timely hits and walks. The official stat of the weekend, 43 hits across 3 games, 22 in Game 2 alone, 27 total runs scored with multiple big innings and 13 walks in Saturday's win. Season high hit total in a single game. Highlights the lineup depth and offensive firepower, even in the losses. Pitching showed flashes of excellence with Burns, just not quite consistent, but what we are seeing now is actual improvement. We're seeing the pitching staff get better and more consistent as the year goes along. Certainly something to look at as the season progresses. The takeaways from this series, Texas Tech remains one of the hottest offensive lineups in the country with multi-hit games and power through the order. Multiple players are contributing: Ferreira, Hughes, Villeneuve, Rusnek, Garcia, Schaus, and Lopez. They had a 1-2 series split versus Houston. Drops your Big 12 record to 5-8, but you showed resilience with late rallies and extra inning fight. Pitching had strong outings. Burns, for example, key relief from Suter and Lowe, but bullpen depth tested in these high-scoring games. Homestand provides momentum heading into the next series, and the next game was actually yesterday at New Mexico. That was a 10-5 win for the Red Raiders, and the upcoming series is here in Lubbock against the West Virginia Mountaineers, of course, at Dan Law Field at Rip Griffin Park. First game is Friday. First pitch is at 6:30 p.m. Saturday, it's a 2 p.m. first pitch, and Sunday, 1 p.m. first pitch. All of these games are on ESPN+. When we return, we'll talk Texas Tech softball. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast presented by Midwest Helmet. Welcome back. The number 2 Red Raiders swept BYU 3-0 at home to improve 38-2 overall and 14-1 in Big 12 play. Texas Tech continued their dominant season with strong pitching, power hitting from Jackie Liz, and multiple run rule victories while extending their win streak. Game 1 was Thursday. That was a 11-1 run rule win in 6 innings. Tech opened the series with a decisive victory behind Nigeri Kennedy's milestone performance. Offensive highlights were 11 runs on 5 hits plus 10 walks. Jackie Liz was 2 for 4, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and 2 runs. Caitlin Terry was 0 for 1, but had 1 RBI on 3 runs and 3 walks. Mia Williams 1 for 2, 1 RBI, 2 runs, and 2 walks. Mia Davis, 1 for 2, 2 runs, 1 walk. Taylor Pinnell, 2 RBIs on a sac fly. You had a huge 6th inning, 6 runs capped by Liz's second home run. In the pitching circle, Nigeri Kennedy, credited with the win, was 14-2. Had a complete game, 6 innings pitched, allowed 2 hits, 1 run. None of it wasn't earned. No walks and 11 strikeouts, which put her at 1,000 career strikeouts. BYU scored 1 unearned run in the first. Tech tied and pulled away with patience at the plate. Game 2 was on Friday. That was a 10-1 run rule win in 5 innings. Tech exploded for 9 runs in the second inning to clinch the series early. Offensive highlights were 10 runs on 9 hits, multiple contributors with a huge second inning. That included a 2 RBI single by Haley Toney. Strong production across the lineup with timely hits and extra base opportunities. Caitlin Terry was in the circle, delivered a strong complete game effort. The staff limited BYU to 1 run on 2 hits. Game 3 was Saturday. It was a 12-4 run rule win in 5 innings. Tech erupted for 7 runs in the fourth to complete the sweep in run rule fashion. Put up 12 runs on 12 hits. Mia Williams was 3 for 4. 2 RBIs, 2 runs, and her 14th home run. Jasmine Burns, 1 home run, 3 RBIs. Caitlin Terry was 1 for 4, had a double and 2 RBIs. Lauren Allred, had 2 RBIs. Taylor Pinnell had the game-winning RBI. Mia Davis, 2 for 4, a double, 2 runs, and her 29th stolen base. Haley Toney and Desiree Spearman had runs and stolen bases. In the pitching circle, Samantha Lincoln pitched 2.2 innings, allowed 3 hits, 3 runs, all of them earned, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Nigeri Kennedy came in relief and was credited with the win. She's now 15-2. 2.1 innings pitched, had allowed 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. The combined effort held BYU after an early exchange. There was no midweek game this week. The player of the weekend, Jackie Liz. She was the game 1 standout with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs, consistent power and production throughout the series. The official stat of the weekend, 33 runs scored in the BYU sweep. That was 11 plus 10 plus 12 with multiple run rule wins in big innings. Nigeri Kennedy reached 1,000 career strikeouts. The offense extended the win streak to 13. Highlights continued elite pitching depth and explosive offense against conference competition. The series takeaway, Texas Tech remains one of the most potent teams in the country with multiple home run and big innings from Liz, Williams, Burns, Terry, and others. Multiple players contributing across the lineup with power and speed, Davis's steals, and patience. Pitching is led by Kennedy. She had her milestone game plus the wins. And strong efforts from Terry and Lincoln show outstanding depth. That was maybe your one weak spot last season. A home sweep of BYU improves the Big 12 record to 14-1 and extends the win streak. And by the way, is good enough for the polls to reflect Texas Tech as the number 1 team in the country after Texas lost the series to Alabama 1-2. Strong momentum as one of the top teams nationally heading into the next road series, which is against the Utah Utes. That is at Salt Lake City, Utah. First pitch is Friday at 6 p.m. Saturday, first pitch is at 1 p.m. And then Sunday, first pitch at 12. All these games will be on ESPN+. When we come back, we'll have the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the Flatland Sports Podcast presented by Midwest Home. Back for one more. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll start with the good.
Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
North Carolina intends to hire longtime NBA coach Michael Malone as the school's next basketball coach. He's an NBA championship coach with the Denver Nuggets from the 22 and 23 season, and won 510 games as an NBA head coach. That was per Pete Thamel. Why is that good? Because it was not Grant McCasland. The list, who was listed as a target of UNC, maybe felt like because of how long this thing dragged on with UNC, you started to get a little bit more nervous as time went on. Now, I didn't see it at all. I just didn't buy that Grant McCasland was ever going to leave Texas Tech for UNC. It's not the 90s. Michael Jordan isn't on the roster. UNC, in my opinion, is a lateral move at best. And Texas Tech also better funded from an NIL standpoint. Also better facilities as of right now. Now, UNC has announced facility upgrades to their practice facility and the arena. But that said, I just, unless there was some personal connection with Grant McCasland, everybody talking about how great of a program UNC. Everybody would be insane if UNC came calling to say no. Well, a bunch of people did say no. That's how they ended up with Michael Malone. And of course, washed up old professional head coaches have just worked out great for the North Carolina Tar Heels. So this one should be no different. Let's do a bad.
It's so good.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
Luan Watts has entered the transfer portal, and that's not necessarily the bad thing. The bad thing was just the production from the year. Let's go over some of the stats. Watts this year was a 43.3% field goal shooter, 32.1% three-point shooter. He was a 76% free throw shooter, and his defensive stats were just not great. Compare that to where he came from at Washington State, where he was a 54% field goal shooter, and at Eastern Washington, a 61% field goal shooter. He just was a case of a transfer addition that had a lot of potential. That just didn't hit. And frankly, you were due, in my opinion. You've really, in the entire Grant McCasland era, you've really hit on all of your portal additions. It was time for one to just not pan out. So on to the next one. Good luck to you, Luan Watts. And frankly, in my opinion, and from what I've heard, this is a mutual decision. There's no bad blood between the two parties. Luan Watts just wasn't a fit here. The style of play didn't gel with him. I think the pace of competition in the Big 12 was maybe a little bit more than he was expecting. And good luck to you, Luan Watts. Let's do an ugly.
Whoa! This is worthless.
It's less than worthless, my boy.
The Texas Longhorns dropped a series in softball to Alabama last weekend, which opened the door for Texas Tech to take the number one spot in all polls after sweeping BYU. That's not the ugly part. The ugly part is the softball America poll that was put out yesterday, and I'll put that up on the screen now. The SEC bias is still real, still alive and well, and it doesn't matter what the sport is. Alabama, Texas Tech, by the way, one loss the entire season, has run ruled nearly every team they played. Alabama, 36-3. Texas Tech is a clear, should be consensus number one. It is absolutely asinine to put the Alabama Crimson Tide ahead of Texas Tech in this poll. But that's what Softball America has been doing all season. They were the only poll to have Texas Tech not in the number one preseason poll spot. And it appears that whether it's Oklahoma or not, and Oklahoma is undoubtedly a power, or the Texas Longhorns, who deserve to be in that number one spot for a long time by virtue of their record and by virtue of winning the national championship last year. There's still an unfair bias that will always go to the SEC, and that will last as long as it lasts. And that's all I can say about that. But that's all I've got for you. Please, again, if you're here right now, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps me so much when you do that. Helps the algorithms. Special thanks again to Midwest Helmets. If you're looking for a customized decorative football helmet like the one behind me, or you can wear it. It is a real football helmet. Whatever you want to do. Contact Midwest Helmets through either their Facebook or Instagram pages. I'll have links in the description. And when you mention Flatland Sports, you will get 10% off your custom build. For Flatland Sports, I am Christopher Johnson. Thank you so much for taking the time today, and Wreck 'em Tech.